Hi loves, this is Shannon Easterly, licensed clinical marriage and family therapist. I want to talk just a little bit more today about what a secure adult relationship looks like before we move into some of the more insecure things that we can see in attachment styles. I am unapologetically using notes today because it's a Monday. At least when I'm taping this. Might not be a Monday when you're watching it. Okay, so characteristics of a stable relationship with partners who are feeling securely attached, who are experiencing that sense of secure attachment, the ability to feel relaxed in the emotional field. Number one, both partners have a high expectation for how they will be treated. I think oftentimes it is really easy to be almost somewhat gaslighted by a partner who maybe is not willing to do the work or maybe doesn't have the capacity to do the work, to believe that the desire for a relationship that is lower in conflict or higher in affection or both or whatever our needs might be is not a realistic thing to ask for. And when we have a tendency towards secure attachment, we fully believe that our expectations are reasonable and we can see proof of relationships around us that show us that those expectations are reasonable. And we believe that we are worthy of that kind of relationship. And we expect that kind of treatment. We expect a partner who will invest in us. We expect a partner who will treat us with love and respect. So both partners have a high expectation for how they will be treated. Stable adult relationships with secure attachment are fun, fulfilling, deep, and intimate because of that ability to relax in the emotional field. It's like hanging out with a friend, because it is hanging out with a friend. And so there is just that sense of it being a safe place to be, a safe base to come home to. There's a capacity for presence and authenticity. In some psychobabble terms, there is the ability to receive nourishment from the relationship. It is fascinating to recognize that depending on what our attachment style is, we may or may not be able to offer that nourishment. We may or may not be able to receive that nourishment. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as time goes on and we talk about some of the less secure styles. There is room for the healthy expression of the entire range of emotions. When partners are securely attached, each partner can explicitly state disappointment, discontent, and frustration. Explicitly, but lovingly and respectfully. Each partner can also explicitly show love and affection. Interestingly, there are a lot of relationships where what we think of as the harder emotions, frustration, disappointment, sadness, anger, those are okay. But if there's not a real sense of security, if a partner shows joy, excitement, pride, that's not okay. That's when it will create insecurity in the other partner. So in a securely attached adult relationship, we are able to express the full range of emotions and still feel safe in the emotional field with a partner. Stable, secure relationships are playful, nurturing, and physical. When we are little, we play a ton at, hide and seek, tag, all kinds of wrestling and silliness. And we don't always think about it that way, but sex, in case there are kids listening, is how grown-ups play. That's how we play. And so secure relationships have physical intimacy, and it doesn't have to be sex. It can be hand holding and hugs and love and back rubs and just, pats on the shoulder or pats on the booty or, fist bumps. It doesn't matter, but there is that physical connection and that playfulness in the relationship that allows partners to feel connected physically as well as emotionally. There's a balance of togetherness and separateness. Both partners feel comfortable being close, and they feel comfortable when they are separated for periods of time, and they can move smoothly between those two states. And there is kind of a threshold with each of them where they feel like, okay, I need a little bit of, we've been together for a while, we need a little bit of separateness. We've been separate for a while, we need a little bit of togetherness. Each partner can offer and receive repair. So again, sometimes partners can offer repair, but they're not able to receive it from the other partner. Sometimes partners can receive it, but they are not able to offer it. In a securely attached relationship, each partner can do both. Partners dream together and create shared meaning. This one is so important. The thing that keeps us connected in a current relationship and in a current life is the ability to create a future together, to develop shared meaning in the present, and also to have that extend into the future through dreams of things that you want to do together. It's the shared meaning in the present that makes you want to do those things together in the future. And it's the planning for the future that makes you want to stay together in the present. So it creates a feedback loop. Just a reminder that secure attachment is always possible. We all start out with the capacity for secure attachment, and then we may adapt away from that depending on what we experience with our caregivers, depending on our individual characteristics, and depending on our life experiences. In the next video, I will talk about the insecure attachment styles, and I'm going to give you a little precursor to that now. We're going to do a little quiz. You ready? So one of the things that is important to individuals with secure attachment and in relationships that experience secure attachment is comings and goings, partings and reunions, hellos and goodbyes. When couples are securely attached, there is a greeting that happens when they are reunited. And in fact, they might even stop their task and go to their partner and give them a hug or a kiss and say, hello, how was your day? And they will reconnect. Same thing if somebody is leaving. There's a break in the current status where partners come together and they acknowledge we're about to be separated for a while. So here's your precursor to which direction might you lean, because even individuals who primarily exhibit secure attachment, we cannot be in secure attachment 100% of the time. Just doesn't happen. None of us are that. So we're going to lean one way or the other. For partners who, let me back up and do that differently. If you just heard me say that and your first thought was that part about the hellos and goodbyes and stopping what you're doing and acknowledging your partner, and your first thought was, oh my God, that sounds exhausting, then you probably lean toward avoidant attachment, avoidant dismissive. If your first thought was, oh my gosh, that's all I've ever wanted, is just a partner who is happy to see me when I arrive and a little bit sad to see me when I go, then you probably lean toward anxious or preoccupied. There's a third type of insecure attachment, and that's ambivalent. It's a combination of the two. And keep in mind that our attachment styles can change over time depending on the relationship that we're in, and it can even change within the same relationship. I remember when my daughter was itty bitty and I would go to pick her up from daycare, And her whole countenance would light up, and she would do that toward me and almost fall before except when they're little, their little arms aren't very long. And so even when their hands are outstretched, their fingers only come not even to the top of their head. And I could not get to her fast enough. I couldn't get her close enough. We were secure attachment at its best. Now she's 12 and a half, and she's like in the height of adolescent awkwardness, and I hear the door open, and my first instinct is to like, where can I go? How can I? Because invariably she is wrapped around the axle about some great news, something that she saw on YouTube or and I literally have to like take myself by the shoulders, turn myself around, and march myself in front of her to be present. Because my tendency now is to be avoidant. Whereas really when I think about it, my tendency earlier on was to be more anxious. It was hard for me to be away from her. I wasn't worried about her all the time when I was away from her, but there were times that I was worried, or thinking about, gosh, I should be with my child. So that can change over time too. And even then, it's important to remember that we can work to adapt back to secure attachment. So let me give you an example of what that might look like using that same scenario. My daughter and I got ready to go somewhere the other day. We got in the car together. We had no more than started backing out when she started talking about, she said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Does it involve buying anything?" And she said, "Never mind." And I stopped the car in the drive and I said, "Honey, I'm sorry." I said, "I'm trying really hard. It's just that right now, every time we're alone together, you're immediately talking about the next thing that you want to get." And she finished my sentence by saying, "And that makes you not really want to spend time alone with me." And I was like, and in my head I'm thinking, thank you for saying it. I sound like a phenomenal mom right now, don't I? And she said, "I get it." She said, "But have you thought about what it's like to be 12 right now, when there's not a lot that you can do because of the pandemic, and there's not a lot of entertainment, and there's not a lot of activity?" And I was like, oh my gosh, you are so right. And so I said, I will try really hard to be more patient. I also need you to know that I'm going to be setting some really strong boundaries about what we get, what we don't get. And she said, "I will try to make sure that I'm not asking you about something or for something every time we talk." So we start on our way. We find some music that we both want to listen to. By the time we get to the place that we were going, we both were feeling much more connected. And when I turned off the car, I turned to her and said, "Okay, show me what you wanted to show me." So she got to, and she lit up like a Christmas tree. So she got to experience in that moment, me turning toward her, even when it was not what I wanted to do in that moment. While I got to experience the drive there with her having to really sit with the anxiety of wanting to tell me about something, show me something, and not doing that. So you will go through different stages of attachment and different, or maybe not so much different stages, but different feelings around attachment with the same person throughout time, and sometimes even throughout the same day. And it's just continually working to get back to that place of secure attachment. But it does exist. It is worth working for. Because we have, I'm going to go back to my notes now, because we have the ability for secure attachment, if we think about that idea, and this is the thing I'm going to leave you with today, if we think about that idea of secure attachment allowing us to relax in the emotional field, and I just had this conversation in my last session, which is why I jotted down these notes, because I had like a moment of, that sounded pretty good. If I do say so myself. So if we think about secure attachment allows us to relax in the emotional field, if we are not experiencing that, we have 3 choices. The first is to change your priorities. If you are not feeling safe enough, your partner is not feeling safe enough to relax in the emotional field, you may have to change your priorities. You may have to decide it is more important for me to go out and drink with my buddies than it is for me to create safety for my partner. So my priority is to drink with my girlfriends or with my buddies or combo. Or it is more important for me to get my point across than it is to say something in a respectful and loving way. And so I know that's not going to create safety in my relationship, but I don't care. It's more important for me to get it out the way I want to get it out. And it doesn't have to be even something negative in that way. It can be, it is more important for me to stay in this relationship for financial reasons or for security reasons than it is for me to experience secure attachment, at least for right now, or maybe forever. There are a whole host of reasons that we may choose to forego the experience of secure attachment. Everyone's individual choice. The bottom line is you may have to change your priorities if you're not experiencing it, and whatever you are experiencing, the reason you're experiencing it is more important than achieving secure attachment. The second thing you can do is change your behavior. If you want to experience secure attachment and it's not happening and you can shift those priorities, then you change the behavior. I decide that it's not as great to be able to, spend thousands of dollars frivolously than to create safety for my partner. So I'm going to change that behavior so that my partner and I both feel safe and we can relax in the emotional field. I make that sound super easy. I'm just going to change that behavior. Oh, we're only that easy. I will do the work to change that behavior. And again, you have to be with a partner who's willing to do the work with you. But we can make changes in our behavior to facilitate secure attachment. And then the last thing, if you are not able to relax in the emotional field and you want that sense of secure attachment, and maybe you've tried changing your priorities, maybe you've tried changing your behavior, the last part is changing your relationship. We can experience different kinds of attachment with different partners. Sometimes we go from a place of secure attachment to experiencing periods of really anxious attachment or really avoidant attachment, depending on the relationship that we're in and how we're triggered in that relationship. So if you're in a relationship where you're experiencing a more anxious attachment or a more avoidant attachment, or you just can't get comfortable in the emotional field, change your priorities, change your behavior, change your relationship. And if you struggle with any of those things, that is where therapy comes in. So find a qualified therapist that you feel really comfortable with. Sometimes that's our first experience with secure attachment, is a clinician that we are really able to develop a sense of trust and safety with. And do the work, because we're all wired for it and we all deserve it. That's all for today. Much love. Mwah.